David Trainor out here today with Kurt Livesey from Alchemy Bioscience. We're one of the projects that we're working on this summer. Really excited learning more about their PiKSi Dust product. We've got a handful of test strips out with it on right now. We're starting to walk some fields and see what it's doing. We put some of the product in furrow on our corn, in furrow and in the 2x2. Seeing some good results from that. Today we're out walking a bean field where we applied the product with our post herbicide and seeing some good results. But at first I'd like, Kurt, would you mind introducing yourself?
You bet.
Tell a little bit about your company and what you're doing.
You bet, yep. So as David said, Kurt Livesey with Alchemy Bioscience. We're right down the road in Bloomington, Illinois. We actually manufacture a line of silica-based specialty fertilizers that are all designed for stress mitigation. So as you said, we've got an in-furrow product, a 2x2 product, a foliar product, seed treatments, and the goal of what we're trying to do is really not that a farmer would, we don't push a system as a lot of places do where it's, you've got to use the in-furrow and the 2x2 and the seed treatment and the end. Instead, we just try to create a system, David, where we can meet a guy where they're at. So a lot of people have in-furrow, but they don't have 2x2, or they have the ability to treat their seed, but they don't have anything on the planter. So the goal originally was just how do we get silica into that plant? And as you pointed out, the name of the product is PiKSi Dust. You guys didn't mishear that on the video. I do actually own the trademark on PiKSi Dust. So we spell it PiKSi because it is a potassium silicate-based product. And as I was formulating all these products, or as I got started in this process, there's a lot of different silica options. There's abundant silica in the Earth's crust, but it's not plant available. So I was looking at, the calcium silicates, the sodium silicates, the potassium silicates. And what I very quickly found out as someone who literally started the company in my garage was that some of those were a lot easier to work with than others. Calcium silicate, there are some good products that have that in it. However, it's very difficult to work with. It's thick and kind of like paint and a little gritty. And sodium silicate, I don't know of any place really that needs more sodium on their crop. So potassium silicate was what we started with as our base product. If you analyze the product and look at it, particularly what we're talking about today with the PiKSi Dust Plus, there's a little cobalt, moly, and nickel in there as well. Those are not on a guaranteed analysis because they don't hit the guaranteed thresholds. Okay. But if you look at a heavy metal test, those are in there, and we know that those are important for soybeans as well. So the in-furrow, the 2x2 products, those are primarily designed for grasses, like you said, with corn, because we know that corn and wheat, oats, barley are small grains. They take up silica primarily through the roots. They have the genetic ability to do that. Whereas our dicots, like our soybeans, our hemp, our sunflowers, potatoes are a big one, they aren't able to translocate that. So they take it into the roots, but they can't translocate it up to the plant. So what we've done is we've designed a foliar product. That's what we're looking at here today. This is the PiKSi Dust Plus product. I will point out, because again, I did start the company in my garage. I'm very proud of the fact that we're Beck's PFR proven. I know some people set a lot of stock in that, some people don't, but it's nice for me because it's independent third-party validation of what we're trying to work on. And one of the ways that we pick up yield, so to speak, and I want to challenge everybody to think about that a little differently, it's not so much that we're adding bushels so much as it is that we are protecting bushels, right? We are reducing yield loss. We know that the genetic potential is there in the bag, the box, whatever, from day one to produce infinitely more than what we are currently doing nationwide on corn, soybeans, etc. So what we're trying to do with the stress mitigation is help protect that yield that was already there and reduce the yield loss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. No, as I've been learning more about this product and, found out about a podcast and online and like, hey, let's give that product a try. Because again, we're always pushing to get to the next level, and with Kurt being as local as he was, I'm like, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
So, and been really impressed with what we've seen early on. Granted, we'll take it to yield.
Yep.
It's all about putting dollars and cents back in your pocket, and so we got to make sure it does that.
Absolutely.
Out here in this field, the soybean, we've got 2 soybean fields where at our post application, we put PiKSi Dust in 1 round, sprayed strips throughout the field.
Yes, thank you.
We did it on 2 different farms, and then when that ran out, we put the regular product back in and finished the fields out. So it's a side-by-side strip sprayed the same day that we'll take to yield to see what variation we've got. But we were out here digging plants today and seeing some real good results.
I just want to add, David, I really appreciate how you've done those trials, because I understand that from the farmer standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to do, half a field versus half a field. That's easy because then we can, unload whatever, and you got to use the GPS, the RTK. it's a pain in the butt to do it the way that you've done it, and I really appreciate that. But the thing that's really key, and I think important in the way that you've done it, is if there is field variation, right? So let's say that the north half is well drained and the south half isn't, or vice versa. Sometimes when we test products, we have that confounding variable, and the way that you've done this with the replicated strips takes that out. So I really appreciate that you've done that, because then whatever differences we see, we know are attributable to product success or failure.
Yep, for sure. And again, we want to, anything we try, we want to make sure we get that value out of it.
Yes.
So, and again, it's a lot of work that goes into it early on, and we just want to make sure we got good data coming out of it.
Yeah.
And for what we've seen digging up some of these plants here in the fields today, starting to see some good things.
We are. It's kind of fun when you get out here and actually get to you know, ground truth it and see this. Now, I will say, guys, again, I live in Bloomington. My wife grew up in Central Illinois. I'm from Southeast Iowa. I've traveled all over the U.S. We tend to see great success in areas with a lot of stress, and let's call a spade a spade. Central Illinois, a lot of times, is not the most stressful environment, right? We have good soil, we get decent rain, and so if there's an environment where it quote unquote shouldn't work, it would be here. We just objectively have less stress. So to see what we're seeing, I'm very excited about this, and in fact, we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So you guys know what we've done is we've gone out in the field. David picked several plants from both the treated and the untreated, and then we stripped them down. And I encourage you guys to go do this with your own, any trials you're doing. But we start by just stripping off the leaves so that we can actually see, nodes per plant, beans per, or pods per node, et cetera, et cetera. So you start by just ripping off the leaves so you can see a little better. We did full plant pod counts after that. But sometimes, the laterals, when you get these laterals, how much of those are we actually going to retain? One of the things that we see with the PiKSi Dust Plus is there's a lot of people putting on PGRs or planting lower populations to try and increase that lateral branching. And when you do that, if you get really good pod fill, I've actually seen where those laterals will break off because it gets heavy enough that they break it off. So by adding the silica early like we do, and the timing on that is important at V3, but by adding the silica when we do, we actually increase the cell strength, right, down at the base of that plant. So the analogy I like to use is it's kind of like the bricks and mortar in the cell structure of your plant. This is like adding mortar to that bricks and mortar. Silica strengthens those cell walls. So with that said, after we stripped off those leaves and we did full plant pod counts, we said, well, what if we don't retain any of these? Like, what if we abort them? What if we break them off? So we started next, we rip off all of the laterals and we throw those away. So those are out next.
So
yeah,
that's being a true farmer. When he beat me with in the product worth with the leaves on there, I'm like, well, let's get rid of the branches and let's go down to the main stem.
And that's fair, because it really is about, the majority of our yield is going to come from the main stem, right? Yeah. So we did these, and so now we're down to main stem pods, and that's what we did. We did the untreated over here and the treated over here on the pod counts. And David, what happened there as far as pod counts?
Yep, the treated beat me on the pod counts as well.
It wasn't a ton, right? So on average, on main stem pod counts on the treated was, I think it was 49 3/4.
Yep.
And on the untreated was 45.4, so about 45.5.
Yep.
So you're only talking about a difference of roughly 4.5 pods per plant.
Right.
But there's 110,000 plants out there.
Right, exactly. And so it's that part where, yeah, you can definitely see that. And personally, I felt, looking at the pod sizes and looking at the plants overall, I felt I could see a value to the PiKSi Dust ones. A little bit larger bean size already. So again, not something that we're definite on, but I really liked what the treated plot looked like out here.
Yes, well, and like I said, if you look at the BEX data, we were in there 2020, 2021, and 2022, so we got to PFR proven in just 3 years, and I think they had us at 2.5 to 2.75, somewhere in that range, bushels per acre. Guys, when I'm building products, I literally have a spreadsheet on this where I have the projected yield, ROI on this, and if I can't get you, my goal is always to try and get you a 3-to-1, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm not in business to trade $1 for $1. That's not how this works, right?
Yep.
So my goal is always to try and get about a 3-to-1 return, and then to go from there. And I believe, based on what we've seen in BEX, what we've seen with Mason Wells down way in southern Illinois, like we talked about, somewhere, I think BEX is probably a little bit low. His is probably, company data is always a little bit artificially high, or whatever. Don't trust company data.
Right.
So somewhere, I would say comfortably in that 3 to 5 range is probably what we're seeing across the board on average for bushels per acre. And then with it being about a $9 an acre investment, you're looking at about a 3-to-1 return.
Yep. Okay. And again, it's back to stress mitigation. That's where PiKSi Dust, the idea behind it, correct? It's keeping those pods on there as we're getting through the summer and filling those beans. We're keeping pods is realistically what we're able to see out here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess as you move forward, what's your thought? I guess, what are your plans with Alchemy Bioscience?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're kind of starting to really broaden or expand into right now is dealing with amino acids. And I'm not trying to knock any companies or any approaches, but what I have seen personally with a lot of the companies with amino acids in commercial agriculture is they're taking a sort of shotgun approach where they'll take like a byproduct from the animal feed industry and they'll go market it as an amino acid fertilizer. The problem with that is, and research is really clear on this is university data, the wrong amino acid at the wrong time on the wrong crop can actually do damage and can take you backwards. So what I've started doing is I've started building crop-specific amino acid blends. So we've got one already labeled for cotton, and it is labeled only for cotton. That product is not for use on beans or corn or whatever, and we've seen tremendous success with it because it's tailored to the cotton plant and what it needs. This year we had a trial product for increasing protein on wheat. And to be completely transparent, we have not increased yield on wheat. That wasn't what I set out to do. I have some people that are being paid on quality, and so they wanted to see the protein higher. So that was what I'm trying to do with wheat. And so that one, thus far, we've seen mixed results in down in like Kansas and Oklahoma, where they had a ton of rain this year. We didn't see as much. We've seen pretty decent results up in like eastern Kansas, where it was more of what I would call a normal year. And the real telltale on that's going to be in North Dakota, because that's what it's sort of designed for. We have a test product this year for amino acid product for corn. Calling that one Dragon Dust. In case you guys haven't noticed, I like my names that you may not like, but you will remember. That's the important part as marketing. And then my goal for next year is to get one developed for soybeans, because I really am passionate about soybeans and increasing soybean yields, and fundamentally about increasing ROI, because I feel like there's a lot of room, to increase our ROI here in soybeans if we just stop treating them like, the redheaded stepchild.
Right. So the idea of building more yield in there and making it more profitable just across the whole farming operation. Well, no. Really appreciate your time today, Kurt.
Absolutely.
This is kind of the introduction to Alchemy Biosciences, and after what I'm seeing, it was one of those, let's give it a try, and is it something that I want to bring to the market or not? After the initial, what we're seeing this summer, it's a product that I'm definitely going to look, excited about the yield, what we've got to come to see out there, and excited about the relationship we can build, and I guess bring to you guys more information about some of these new products that not everybody's looking at or talking about. We want to make sure we can get that stuff covered for you. So appreciate the time today, and if there's anything we can help you with, please let us know.